Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of GCC's Georgia Chiro Connection. I'm your host, Dr. Kathy, and this week our guest is half of a principled chiropractic couple. This is a DE couple that is just on fire out in Alabama. Most of you know Doc Porter. He's done some speaking opportunities for us at the GCC, but today we're very, very fortunate to have his wife and office manager, Teri Porter. Hi, Teri.
Hi, thank you so much, Dr. Kathy. I will put out there that actually I have, sorry, Kat, snuck into quite a few training sessions at the GCC, and I love it. So.
Oh, that's awesome. We're glad to hear that. And speaking of training sessions at GCC, we've got a big one coming up this weekend. This weekend is our Atlanta CE. It's on the 16th and the 17th. It's in the Marriott, I think Marriott Northwest, right there in the Marietta area. And I know that Doc Porter is going to be speaking. So we've got Matt McCoy, Dan Lyons, Jen Dickinson, R.S. Porter, Dr. Krantz, and Shannon Good all speaking. So 20 CEUs, get all your credits. If you're coming from another state, we've got you covered as well. So the information's right there on your screen, georgiachiropractic.org. So hope to see you there. It's always a great event. It's always fun for everybody to connect, get their CEs from a principled organization, and, break bread, hug, spend some time together. So, Teri, I understand that you're not able to come this time. You got a little something going on at home?
Yep, a tiny little 8-month-old something, or 8-month-old something. She's a little sweetheart. So we're going to stay home and stay cool.
Right. Yeah, Atlanta heat, it kind of broke. It's not as hot this week, but I do have to put a little plug in because I did get my new AC unit installed, which we had to do a new one last year on one side of the building. I had to do the other one this year, but supply chain issues, right? So thankfully the heat broke here. I don't know. I like it when it's in the high 90s, but I don't blame you for staying home, playing and having a great time with that little baby girl of yours. Time, it goes fast, right?
It does.
It does. So I want to talk to you about a couple things, because being a principal spouse, being an office manager, being in the office all day long, hiring, firing, working with staff, talking with patients, dealing with all the business aspect of chiropractic, there's a lot that our partners and our office managers see, that sometimes we're so busy taking care of patients, we don't even realize how many fires you have to put out up front. So let's talk a little bit about hiring, firing, what it's like to have to run the office and get people trained to be able to handle what it is that we do in a busy chiropractic office.
Absolutely. So there's a few things that I feel like have just, over the years that I've learned, things like personality, like using the DISC profile and finding personalities that are going to complement the chiropractor. So Dr. Porter, he can't connect with every single person, have really deep conversations with every single person. His focus is adjusting and educating. So then all of us, the rest of the staff and the team, we need to be able to connect and create relationships so that we can educate at a deeper level, so that we can encourage people in that next step in their health journey. So I found that knowing different personalities and connecting, as well as people who have similar passions, if they're not interested in health or wellness or intentionality in life in any other part, like they're not going to come in and suddenly be that person in our office. So often we find patients that already have those passions on the outside, and then they want to help people. And they're like, I just don't know how to put these passions to work. And we're like, oh, we do. Let's do that. And so we have people who have, a nutrition passion, a fitness passion. And we're like, well, we're the chiropractic passion. Come in and bring those pillars into our office. And that way, when somebody's like, I really think I should be working out, we're like, yes, you should. Have a chat with our chiropractic assistant. He's going to encourage you in that. And we'll see you next week for your adjustment. So hiring is challenging, of course, but I've found that having a long process, Dave Ramsey tip, having a long process, doing an interview, doing a phone, just having several steps, and finally interviewing their spouse at dinner, make sure that the spouse isn't crazy. It will avoid a lot of issues down the line. So, yeah.
Okay, that's one I have not done, and I've done a lot of the different hiring and firing things, but I have not interviewed this spouse at dinner. That's pretty smart because then
It
you
saved
kind of
us
get an
some money.
idea of what they're going to be dealing with when they leave your
Absolutely.
office.
Yeah.
Okay,
It
very
saved
good.
us one time because he had expectations that we could never match. He wanted her home at a certain time every single night. And our office, one of our specialties is that we're open late. We're open till 6:30 or 7 every single night. We're going to stay for that patient. That's part of our culture. And so, it was a small thing, but it would have caused issue every single day for her. And that stress would
Mhm.
have been awful and taken away from her ability to serve in our office. And so the other thing I want to mention, I actually really was excited to talk about the principle and what does that mean. And that's something I love about the GCC because we are based in Alabama and we could go to get our CEUs for chiropractors in Alabama, all the love. I'm trying not to, but it's not chiropractic. It's nothing about the chiropractic principle and why it was founded and what we do and how we serve people. And so we come to Georgia because that principle, how and why chiropractic was founded, has not changed. And so that is something else that we look for in hiring is someone who's willing to learn that. I want my assistant to be able to answer questions about true chiropractic, straight chiropractic, principal chiropractic, and why that's what we do in our office. So part of our training, um, most of y'all probably know Dr. Steve Judson. He's very involved with DE, and so his book, Wake Up Humans, is part of our training. So I hand him a copy and say, read this because it's such a digestible principle book. And so I want them to understand where are we coming from? Why are we doing this very quickly and understand that we're not treating pain. We are fully focused on the body's design of function and health and healing, but we're not treating pain. We're not expecting something like, oh, see you in 6 months when you're in pain again. No, this is
Right.
a consistent life and lifestyle focus. So
I love it. And it's always such a pleasure, breath of fresh air, whatever words you want to use, when I talk to someone who is a spouse who is just as chiropractic as the
Mhm.
chiropractor. And being in Georgia, we have that blessing because we've got a lot of DE docs here. We've got a lot of really principled docs here. Some of my closest friends, Brian and Rachel Lieberman. Rachel Lieberman is as chiropractic as it gets, right? And where, she may say she doesn't have a degree, she's got a degree. She has a lifelong degree.
Yeah.
And I sense that with you, Teri, as well. And there's so many people who are just as fired up and passionate about chiropractic, sometimes even more so than some of the chiropractors that I see at some of the different seminars. So I totally understand why you come to Georgia to do your credits here with the GCC, and we appreciate that. And we appreciate obviously your husband coming and sharing his knowledge and expertise as one of our speakers. One of the other things I want to talk to you about is how do you really keep that principled conversation going on at the front desk, throughout the office, with your team? Because one of the problems that happens is oftentimes somebody will hire somebody that is a patient and gets it, right? Until they get a phone call from a patient that says something along the lines of, oh, I can't come in because I don't feel good today. Right. And then all of a sudden you hear somebody at the front desk say the worst possible thing they could say. So, how do you make sure that that's not happening in your office?
Um, Intentional, consistent training. If I want a culture to be something, I have to tell them that, right? Like, otherwise, they don't know.
Right.
And Dave Ramsey again. I love some entree leadership. Throw that out there. Great learning podcast about. I took a whole year to just study. I want to be an office with a lot of intentionality in my training and expectation, all those things. So I actually took a year before I hired anyone. That was a fun year, just me and Dr. Porter in the office every day. But it's been studied that somebody doesn't know something until they've heard it 7 times. So a patient, like I told you that in the new patient consultation, like orientation, like this is what chiropractic is, and they're like, I don't feel any better, so I'm just gonna go do the next thing, and you're like,
Right.
you have to repeat yourself. And so all the more reason to have a staff who can repeat you for you. So if my staff knows what is chiropractic, then they can answer that. They can tell somebody, oh, I'm so sorry that your baby girl is not feeling well. Come get her adjusted. We don't mind that she's not feeling well. Get her here. What time can we expect you? This is why you need to come in, so the patients need to hear it over and over. Your staff needs to hear it over and over. You need to hear it over and over. That's why we get our CEUs. That's why we go to DE. That's why we were involved in GCC. So I have set up with my office manager to have monthly intentional staff trainings. And so we go over specific things like, hey, we need to make sure that we files or something. Mm-hmm. But then we also talk about things that we've encountered, cultural things in our office, like, hey, we need to be doing such and such, as well as just repeating those messages of chiropractic.
But I like that you say it's an intentional meeting, right? Because oftentimes docs will schedule a meeting just to say that they had a meeting with their team. And it's kind of like a grab bag, like, well, what are we going to talk about today? Or, what was going on in the office this morning that we need to talk about, rather than being proactive and saying, this is what we're going to train on. This is what we're going to work on. Because you're absolutely right. The patients spend more time usually with the team than they do with the doctor. So if the team is reiterating and repeating basically the same principled messages, now the patients are really getting it. It's being reinforced.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it. So do you want to share a story with us about something cool that you've seen in the office, or something interesting?
I feel like there's so much,
Well, right. There always is.
Actually, we have had some incredible patient turned staff testimonials. Like we had a person who had 3 little kids, and her little middle child was her son, and he wasn't sleeping. Mm-hmm. And of course, like, hey, he needs to get adjusted. And so he got adjusted, and again, it's this like process of healing, right? Like, oh, he's gotten adjusted before, it didn't work. Okay, well, your family needs to get adjusted if you're going to work here, period. Right. And so as he got adjusted, he just got better and better, calmer, sleeping better, just this like improved health. And that's what I love to see, is somebody that, and that's how there's so many stories. Somebody comes in, oh, I have a headache. Like, okay, great. We're glad you're here. Whatever you feel brought you in, we're glad you're here. And so then we get to walk them through, and then we get to have these conversations of like, well, how are your headaches? Oh, I don't have those anymore. Okay, well, how's your sleep? How's your mental clarity? How's your this, that? And they're like, oh, that's better. And just seeing this life. And again, that's why we are always focusing on the intentionality and lifestyle. And I talk to patients about it being a cycle. It's not, oh, I'm hurt, I'm going to see the chiropractor, I feel better, I'm going to go, oh, I'm hurt, I'm going to come on. And so that
they're new and they're not really expecting it to, they may have heard of chiropractic miracles, but when they see it with their own 2 eyes, they're always taken aback. I have a good friend that I grew up with that lives up in New York, and she recently reached out to me and said, hey, I've got this opportunity to take a job in a chiropractic office, and I wanted to reach out to you first to kind of ask you, what should I expect and what should I talk about in my interview, and what's going to, what should I be prepared for on a day-to-day basis? And my answer was miracles. Be prepared and open to witnessing miracles, and you're going to be surprised. And what's so neat is that because of what she's seeing, she's so much more open to allowing her life to unfold. And so not only is she seeing the miracles in the patients that she's now helping facilitate in the office, but she's seeing them in herself as well. And she's really seeing her body start to function at such a greater level. And she's been working hard to turn her life around for a long time. But now this is kind of like the final piece that's really pushing her life in the right direction. So
it's awesome.
I think when team members see it, It
Yeah.
reinforces it, reinvigorates them, gets them on fire. And sometimes as docs, we can get so used to the chiropractic miracles that we don't even acknowledge them anymore. We just take it for granted. So seeing that fire in our team members just fires us back up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so glad she found that. That's
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
We normally lose a team member because they have grown to the point that they can take their next big step for themselves. And it's awful when they leave, but it's so fun to be able to continually celebrate by sharing their great win with all of our patients. They're like, "Where's so and so?" And we're like, "Oh, they left." But let us tell you this amazing thing they're doing now. So
Yes.
that's so cool that she's found that for herself. But
yes. And we've had a couple that have progressed along the line and went from, like, child patient to work study during high school to had a job with us and then became like a student. And you're like, really?
yeah,
Really? You're going to go to school? Like, I'm
yeah,
excited for you, but you sure about this? Like, sometimes you don't see it in them. And the
yeah.
next thing you know, you're going to their graduation. So it's so fun to see people just open up and let their whole life unfold in front of them. And that's kind of the level that we as chiropractors vibrate on. And when we can incorporate and bring more people into that vibration level, it's just such a pleasure. And it's a blessing to do what we do.
Yes, absolutely.
Teri, I'm so glad you came on to share with us today.
Thank you. Thank
And
you
I
for
look forward to
having me.
seeing you at one of the upcoming events, or probably at the August DE, because DE is coming up in August in Atlanta. So I'm sure if we don't have the information to run across the screen right now, there you go. There's DE, and you can get your CE at DE, of course. But we've got a lot of great speakers at DE, as always. It's you got your staples that are always there to fire you up and get your staff, get your team, get your family members just completely fired up. And we will see most of you this weekend for our CE in Atlanta at the Marriott. And we will see the rest of you probably at DE. But we'll see you back here next week for our GCC's Georgia Chiro Connection. Thanks, Teri.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.